All right, hey, here we go for July. So it's July 3rd, right at 1 o'clock. Temperature is 88 degrees. Humidity is 65% with a heat index of 98 degrees. So this is going to be pretty quick. A very local beekeeper, in fact, he's in the neighborhood across the street, notified me that he has become aware a swarm he caught just a few weeks ago has already reswarmed. The unique factor to this is when he inspected the swarm, the queen had a numbered marking dot on her thorax. So I'm just going to walk out to the yard real quick, see if any of the swarm traps out there have activity on them. If they do, fantastic. If not, no big deal. And then we'll take a look at the front entrance of the hives, of course, just to see what they're looking like for early July, early afternoon with semi-moderate temperatures. All right, early July. That's some pretty nice activity. If you didn't catch the last video from mid to late June, still need to get into number 2 and number 4 down here. That's the other hive with the brick. That's really my priority to determine if they've become queen right, which hopefully by now they have. And then number 16, I need to get them moved over onto the hive stand. Whoa, that's some pretty nice activity on this one down here. This is a pretty big hive, and in fact I said this sometime in June, but considering what I've seen on this hive specifically, they could probably stand to be split. All right, let's check the one swarm trap that would catch a swarm, but I can see from here there's no activity, and then the blue trap's still all closed up. So all right, probably not tomorrow, probably not Saturday, but Sunday. I think I'll get out into the hives on Sunday to do those very few things. One, move 16 onto the hive stand. That's an easy win. And check 2 and 4 to see if they're queen right. And then whichever hive that is down there with the large bearding, I'll probably get in there and make a split with them, but not too much to do. One last thing, check the mediums, because it's a safe assumption the flow's over. So see how their food stores are looking, possibly harvest a little bit of honey, maybe not, and then based on that decision, probably remove the queen excluders, let the queen move freely between the deep and the medium or mediums, make a split or 2, and possibly start feeding in preparation for the fall and winter. So stay tuned for July. Quite a few things to do, not as much as during the nectar flow when things get real busy, but now's the time of year you need to shift gears in an effort to keep your hives alive and really give them a chance for winter survival. All right, here we go. So it is just about 4 o'clock, 92 degrees, 55% humidity with a heat index of 101, and it definitely feels like it. So I'm about to get out to the yard just to do a few simple things, and primarily the very first simple thing is get number 16 off of the ladder and onto a hive stand. And since I'm out there and the ladder is going to become free, I'm also going to check the white swarm trap, the one closest to the street that I've spoke about in the last video, mainly saying that they have been very unproductive this year, meaning I at least catch 1 or 2 swarms in that trap every season, and this year I have caught nothing. So I'm going to open it up, kind of see what they have going on, if anything, possibly rebait it. And then speaking of rebaiting, the blue swarm trap, the one closer to the bee yard and the hives, right? I'm gonna add some frames to them, rebait that one. And then I have 3 in the backyard hanging on the fence. Might as well just rebait them as well. And then I have 1 out in the yard in the storage area that has been not in use for probably a month now. I'm gonna get that one hung at the entrance to the trail from the backyard, which is another pretty good spot that I've caught swarms quite a few times throughout each season. And the reason I'm speaking about swarms so much in July is it's still swarm season. I mean, we'll have swarms throughout the season, not as much as March and April when the nectar flow really kicks off as the seasons change from winter to spring. But a neighbor and a fellow beekeeper that lives very close has caught quite a few swarms in the last month, whereas I haven't. So I figure it's probably a combination of a few things. One, the traps I just haven't rebaited them as much as I should have, and or they may have something going on with them, like a critter moved in or something that just makes the traps unattractive to the bees. So let's get number 16 moved off the ladder, free up the ladder like I said, check a few traps, move a few traps, rebait a few traps, and that'll be it. So I am aiming for an hour or less because, again, it is hot. One last thing I forgot to mention. I mentioned it earlier when I walked out to the yard regarding hives 2 and 4, how they're in the process of requeening, hopefully. So today is day 10. A queen takes 16 days to hatch or emerge. So because of that, I'm gonna give those 2 hives at least until next weekend. So here in another 6 days, which will be next Wednesday, I guess, they should have a queen, a virgin queen, and then sometimes they hang out in the hive for up to a week before they go on their mating flight. So I won't or shouldn't really see any signs that they're queen right until possibly about the 3rd week of July. But I just wanted to touch on that as it crossed my mind. So at the earliest, I'll get into those 2 hives next weekend. And I'm really hoping to pull those 2 frames that I marked with a green slash mark on the top bar. I'm really hoping that there's at least some evidence that they made queen cells over the last 2 weeks. All right, we'll just walk around real quick. It definitely looks and sounds a little different than this morning. And I'm assuming that's because of the temperature increase and possibly the yard just getting a little more sun. So this is what I'm referring to, as y'all saw earlier today. I might, so looking at this, right, I might just adjust the leg out a little on both sides to get the hive just a little lower, since that is the most entrance activity I've seen so far with this colony. So I don't want to abruptly just move them from here to there, because I feel like all the bees that are out flying around right now will probably have a hard time finding their way back to the current entrance location. So if I can, and I think the ladder will work this way, I'll just adjust the leg out, which will lower them and also inch them over just a little. I'll show you what I can. Nothing all that exciting, but I think that's probably the better way to go, just in an effort to get 16 slowly moving towards the stand location and height, in an effort to also not lose a lot of foraging bees. It really doesn't take long for me to adjust from a plan, so this is what I'm talking about. Since I need the ladder to look at the swarm traps out here, I'm just going to use one of the swarm traps that hasn't been in use for a while. Place the hive on top of it. The height's not terribly different. In fact, I might just grab another deep, put on top of the swarm trap, and then set the hive on top of that. And at the same time, just close the distance a little bit between the current location and the hive stand. All right, there you have it. Doesn't have to be pretty, but that'll get the job done. Mainly because, as you can see, the height difference between where the entrance was on top of the ladder to where the entrance is now is basically only the difference of the height of a hive body, plus maybe a few inches. So I feel like this shouldn't cause a lot of problems. And then maybe drop it down in a day or two, inch it over, boom, Bob's your uncle. Welcome to the hive stand number 16. All right, let's check on a few swarm traps and figure out what's going on with them, if anything. Sometimes you get your answer very quickly. So I just popped the lid open on the white swarm trap here, and I'll do my best to kind of show you a first-hand perspective as I'm opening it up a little further. So between the smell, which obviously is something y'all can't experience, count yourselves fortunate for that, and a few moths flying out, I imagine what I'm going to find, in addition to seeing some remnants on the top bars, which I'll show you here in a second. For instance, gee, I wonder what's been going on in here. And if you're wondering, this is pretty difficult to do with one hand. Yep, sure enough. Here, let me show you this real quick if I can. So that's what I saw at first, the stuff on the top bars. And it might not be as bad as I think, because I usually only put one frame in a swarm trap that has drawn comb, which is the very first one, as you're looking at this on the left. And you can tell the discoloration from the top bar, and it looks like some wax moths moved in, which now makes total sense why the bees are not interested in using this. So I'm just going to pull a frame or two just to get a better look, and if I need to take it down out of the tree just to do a little more of a cleanup, I will. If I don't have to, I won't. And maybe, and hopefully, they just need the pill bottle in there. Yeah, actually I see a little bit of a mess. I'll refresh the pill bottle with some lemongrass oil. It's just this one frame, and then the inside of the trap. But yeah, sure enough, I guess another lesson learned: if you have a swarm trap that's just not seeing a lot of activity, there's probably a reason for it, and there you go. Yeah, there wasn't really much to do with the white trap. I just scraped all of the wax moth webbing off of the inside of the trap, cleaned up the one frame, which it really didn't take a lot, and then rebaited it and got it hung back in the same position. So since it's very early July, I am very curious to see if it catches any swarms. I'm going to rebait the blue trap, add frames, and rebait the pill bottle, and that'll be it for this one. All right, blue trap is up and running. So that's it for me today, at least out in the yard. I'm just going to rebait the 3 traps that I have hanging around my backyard fence. Nothing really to show with that. And tomorrow, as long as the weather cooperates and I stick to my plan, of course, tomorrow I'm going to get out here kind of early, like last time, to treat the hives, because tomorrow is day number 4 or 5. And that was my plan that I explained during the last video in June, that it's just that time of year to start treating the hives every 4 or 5 days with 4 grams for 4 or 5 times. So easy way to remember it, if you want to just say 4, 4, and 4. 4 days, 4 grams, 4 iterations, and that should really knock the mites back. Hard time talking today. Since it's been a few months, last time I treated them, I think it was either mid-February or mid-March. So it's been a few months, and as the colonies grow in size, typically so do the mite populations. So once you pull your supers, it's just a good time to treat. All right, hey, welcome back everybody, and happy Independence Day. So here it is, Friday, July 4th, right at 10:30. Temperature is 90 degrees, humidity is 61%, and the heat index is already 101. So it's been 5 days since the first treatment of the hives with oxalic acid. So here I am 5 days later for treatment number 2. And I haven't really decided yet. I'm at least going to treat them 4 times, possibly 5 times. So that's all there really is to it. Actually, a local neighbor and beekeeper mentioned that he had an increase of activity on his swarm traps, and so does a buddy of his that keeps bees close to us as well. considering I just rebaited my hives, I don't see much activity on the 3 that are hanging from the fence in the backyard. One that's closest to the house on the one side, the green swarm trap, which I don't think it's caught any swarms this year. There was like a bee flying around checking it out, so whether you consider that an increase or not, I don't know. But considering I just rebaited all of them to include the 2 that are out close to the bee yard that have caught more swarms than the others, let's go check them out before I get started. I'll get the smoker lit, suited up, get the battery plugged into the InstaVap so it warms up, get that pre-positioned in one of the hives, and then we'll get started. The goal is to beat the heat, but the heat is already here. So I'm hoping to be done by 11 before it increasingly gets a little more warm as the day goes by. All right, let's take a walk around, quick look at the entrances, and then we'll check the 2 other traps. Still nice flight activity given the time of year. I mean, they're not going to stop flying, but surprisingly they still look semi-busy. Today, let's see, I think I'm going to drop 16 down, so remove the bottom deep, and then tomorrow get them a little closer, and then by the end of the weekend get them on to the stand. This is something to look into, this one here. So bearding, of course, is not unusual this time of year, but they're really clogging up the entrance on that one. Let's see if the 2 swarm traps on the path, I can actually smell the lemongrass oil. So nothing on the blue one, and no real activity. Well, no activity on the white one either. Okay, so I don't know, maybe with the buddy that I'm referring to, maybe with him keeping bees rather close, maybe whatever swarms or whatever activities he's getting, if it's not from his own hives, maybe the bees are just liking his area this year, because my swarm activities, my swarm catching this year is I'm on 11, and I think 14 to 15 has been kind of average, with a lot coming early in the year and then a few kind of late season swarms. So I'm not too terribly far off. I think I'll probably catch a few more before swarming definitely ends by kind of the end of summer. But yeah, I don't know. That was just a thought that I have, because he's pretty close by and he's got quite a few hives in his yard. So bees attract bees, so maybe that has something to do with it. Who knows, TBD. But yeah, no, that's cool that he's having more activity on his traps. All right, enough yapping, let's get to it. All right, just a quick update. I'm down here on this one with 3 to go. Something that I've noticed that I know I haven't really talked about much, if not at all, the difference in the rigid batteries. So I have 2 batteries that are older than most by maybe a year or so, but the newer batteries, which are advertised as the max output, the 2 that I'm referencing are both 4 amp hours. The max output, maybe because they're a year newer, or maybe just because of how the battery's designed, that thing gets the InstaVap to temp a lot faster. Just something I noticed that I wanted to share, that I know I haven't really talked about before, but yeah, almost done. All right, I'm just finishing up with number 16 and they're about done.
It's about 11:30. They didn't really take as long as I thought it would, but the hives are treated. I said in the introduction, that's number 2 of either 4 or 5 treatments. So the next treatment should be on the 9th or 10th, and then on the 15th or so, and maybe one more. That'll take me through the 3rd week of July, and they should be good to go for a while. All right, stay tuned to see how the rest of July goes.
All right, welcome back everybody. So here it is, Wednesday, July 9th, 6:45, 87 degrees, 66% humidity with a heat index of 96. And I'll say this much, it actually feels pretty good. So my time in the yard's gonna be pretty brief. I'm just going out to treat the hives. This will be the 3rd iteration, the 3rd treatment. And I'm still on the fence whether I'm gonna do 4 or 5 treatments, but either way, this is the 3rd. Same thing as before, all the hives, 4 grams. I'll give you a few clips of that as I treat, because nothing's different than the last time. And then this weekend, let's see, talking about some upcoming things. This weekend I'm gonna be over at the farmer's market for the first time, so I'll share a few clips of that. And then either Saturday afternoon or Sunday, I need to get into a few of the hives to do a few things. So stay tuned and I'll show you some clips of that as well. All right, let me get suited up. I definitely will need the smoker. I know that for sure because I am confident the bees are bearding very heavily. So I will need a lot of smoke to drive them into the hive so I can close up the entrance as you've seen previously, so I can treat them. All right, let's walk around like usual before I get started, show you the entrances. And there's something going on over here with possibly number 1. Let's see what they're up to. Let's see. I'm looking on the ground. I don't see a queen, as if they're swarming, but that is unusual, especially when you look down the line. Here, let's just take a walk real quick. When you look down the line, and the rest of the colonies are rather calm. And this is what I was saying. I'll definitely need some smoke down here. But yeah, what do you think's going on with this colony? Here, I'll give you another angle real quick. I mean, something's going on. There are bees on the ground, but I do not see any bees or any bee with a mark, and there's no clusters of bees like previously. Hard to say, which is one of the many reasons I need to get into them this weekend. And if you can see that or not, it's hard to tell, but it just looks like a decent amount of activity from this angle. It seems swarmy, but I'll have to go back and check my records on this one, and maybe I'll share that before I finish up today. But I'm pretty confident all the queens have a clipped wing, so another reason to get into them this weekend. All right, let me get things started. I'm obviously going to need a lot of smoker fuel, aka pine needles, out here to drive the bees in, but we'll get it done. I find this pretty interesting. So the InstaVap has about another 45 degrees to go until it's fully heated up. I just hit the first 8 hives or so with just a little smoke. Check this out. It just took a little smoke to drive most of the bees that were bearding into the hive. The reason I wanted to share that is because how heavily the hives beard this time of day and this time of year. It's one of those things that really makes me want to push off any treatments during the week to the weekend, but surprisingly it didn't take much smoke and most of the bees went back into the hive, which should make for easy treatments.
All right, it's just about 7:40 and I am on the second to last hive. So I started about 6:45 or 7:15, so either about 45 minutes to an hour out here to treat 23 hives, which isn't terrible at all, especially in comparison to what I was doing before, which was the wand that operated off a 12-volt battery. Honestly, looking back on things, I could not imagine trying to treat this many hives with a wand. It'd be half a day's event out here. Plus, you'd probably burn through a few batteries. All right, as you see, this one's finishing up. I just got one more to go. That's it for this round. Stay tuned to see what I do next. I'm either going to treat one more time or maybe 2 more times, but in the interim, I'll share a few clips from this weekend when I'm out at the farmer's market here in Onslow County for the first time. So wish me luck. Hopefully I sell a lot of honey. That's the idea, at least, or at least just meet some new people from the community and just try to get my name out there a little more. All right, stay tuned, everybody.
All right, hey, welcome back, everybody. So here it is, Saturday, July 12th, right after 1 o'clock. The temperature is 92 degrees. The humidity is 60%, and the heat index is 104, and it feels like it. So I just spent a few hours this morning between 8 and 12 over at the Onslow County Farmers Market for the very first time, and I was very happy and satisfied with how the morning went. Sold a good bit of honey, met a bunch of folks from the county, and the gentleman next to me actually shared towards the end that today was actually a slow day from what he's noticed by going to the market for quite a while. So with that said, I think I'm just going to make it an early and end of month routine just to participate in the farmers market, sell some honey, get my name out there, and just see how things go between now and I think the last time the market's open is around November before Thanksgiving. All right, hey, let's walk out to the bees, see what they're up to. There's a decent amount of bees flying through the backyard. Nothing like a swarm, but a little more activity than usual. I keep looking over at the bird feeder. I'll show you all that here in a second. It's hot, it's somewhat dry. We did have some rain within the last day or two, but with the heat, that stuff evaporates pretty quickly. So there's a decent amount of bees flying. It looks like they're coming and going from the yard to the bird feeder that has water on it. I'll show you that, and then we're gonna make a quick trip out to the bee yard just to see what they're up to, how things are looking, and to give me an idea whether or not I need to get into them today, or hopefully everything's fine and I can get into them tomorrow. All right, I am happy to report, at least from what I can see right now, things look okay. Nothing looks out of the ordinary, which is really what you hope to find when you come out and check out your hives. This side of the yard remains pretty active, mainly because they get a lot of direct sun this time of year. Yeah, things look good. I mean, nothing looks unusual, which is really all you can hope for throughout the seasons. I'm just checking out the swarm traps, and yeah, between the 2 traps out here, no activity. So I was talking to a few other beekeepers recently at this month's meeting, which was last week, and some of them were saying the same thing. They have noticed a significant decrease in swarming activity, at least for their own hives. And the county club has transitioned over to the beeswarmed.org website, which is awesome. Notifies anybody that's participating in the program, notifies them of any swarms in the selected swarm area that they chose to service. I selected about a 30-mile radius, which is pretty substantial for our area, and I have not received a notification in a good while, so there seems to be a lot of truth to that statement with swarming really dying down. Probably has a lot to do with the time of year, what's in bloom, what's not in bloom, but hey, if my hives aren't swarming, I am totally happy with that. All right, that's it for now. Everything looks good, no real reason to get into the bees at all today. I'm gonna make that a tomorrow thing, so stay tuned. And due to how July has pretty much gone so far, I'm just gonna make a early July and a late July video. So early July will be the first 15 days of the month, and then late July will be the last 15. All right, easy day. All right, welcome back and happy Sunday. So here it is, Sunday, July 13th, right at 10:30 in the morning. The temperature is already 90 degrees, 67% humidity, and 103 heat index. And it absolutely feels like it. It's a hot one, and I am mentally forming my plan as I speak, how I'm gonna go about today, because I have a lot to do. So check it out. The last inspection of the colonies was about on June 6th. So it's been about 5 weeks. And the reason for that is because the last time I intentionally got into the hives to inspect them, I decided not to, and that was June 21st, because as I was going through the top boxes, they had a lot of food stores, or they were bringing in a lot of nectar. They just needed to cure it. So today I'm gonna start with hive number 2 and 4. Those are the ones that have been trying to requeen for quite a while now, to where, fingers crossed, right? Hopefully I don't have a laying worker situation, but it's been long enough and I've tried enough things up until now to where if those 2 colonies are not queen right, unfortunately, I'm probably going to combine them with another colony and just call it a day. So a lot to do, right? I plan on going through all the hives, no matter what the top boxes look like, to conduct a full inspection, because again, it's been over a month, which is unlike me. I usually don't let the hives go that long in between inspections, but again, because about 2-3 weeks ago, went out there to inspect them, and I was surprised how much food they were bringing in for June after harvesting all of the supers just 3 weeks before, at the very end of May. May 31st and June 1st is when I pulled all the honey. So I'm gonna go through all the hives. I might do that in increments today. I might just do an hour at a time until I'm done. Go out for an hour, come in for 30 minutes or so, take a break, go back out. It is what it is this time of year, and I own that, because some beekeepers come out very early in the day to beat the heat. I just have a hard time adjusting to that sometimes. So let's get to it. Quite a few things to do. We'll get it done. I'll show you clips as I go, and this will be the last inspection for the early July video. The only other thing I have to do for the first 15 days of the month that will be captured in this portion of July's videos is the final treatment of the colonies, which is tomorrow. All right, let's get to it and try to beat this heat. Smoker's lit. Let's just walk around, take a look at the front real quick. Nothing looks out of the ordinary, which is good. So number 2 right here, and number 4 down here with the other brick. Like I was saying in the introduction, those are the 2 I need to start with, and today's the day. I need to make a decision if they just have not become queen right. 16, as y'all saw in the previous clips, that is the latest swarm, number 11, from easily over a month ago at this point. And then these hives have remained pretty active and healthy looking, but as you may have heard me say from time to time, you can't really judge much just by the entrance. The entrance can give you a lot of clues, but you definitely have to get into the hives and inspect them. And then this one right here, this one's been on my mind because that's a shallow box. It's the only one, and I only have a few shallow frames, and that's been on there for probably a few weeks now, with only 5 frames, maybe 4, maybe 5 frames in the top box. So what's been on my mind is basically the potential mess I'm about to get into, given half of the shallow was wide open and free for the bees to do whatever they want with. I'm curious to see how much comb they've possibly drawn out in any sort of open space. So, all right, enough of me yapping. Let's get to it, because again, I have a lot to do. It's already pretty darn hot, and I got a few other things to do as well. So let's crack these hives open and see how they're looking for early July. All right, I'm on the middle frame and pretty puzzled so far. So no signs of brood, no signs that they're queen right just yet. This is the frame that I gave them maybe 3 weeks ago, and there's no signs that this frame had eggs on it at all, which could mean they all hatched out, or I don't know, maybe the bees did something with them. So I got 5 more frames to go, or 4, I guess. Yeah, maybe 5. We'll see what happens. Yeah, pretty disappointing. So this is number 2. Doesn't look like anything's changed in their situation. All right, down here at number 4, this is the frame I introduced at the same time with number 2, which was about 2 to 3 weeks ago. And it looks like they have successfully backfilled all of the cells that contained mostly larvae and food. However, there is a good sign here. I don't know if it's going to come up, but right there looks like the remnants of a queen cell. So I'm halfway through the colony. There's no signs they're queen right just yet, but I do have 5 more frames to go. And given the amount of time, they may have created a queen and already tore down the queen cells. That is the one difficult thing when you give colonies ample amount of time between adding a frame to get them queen right and checking on them, because I said it earlier in the month and I failed to do so. I meant to get out into these hives a few days after giving them a frame to see if they were actually making queen cells, but I think the weather had a lot to do with that, which is why I couldn't get out here. Okay, well, I'll give you a summary here in a little bit. So far, not good. All right, well, unfortunately, no change. They're still queenless, and today's the day. I need to do something with them. So I guess on a positive note, I have 2 colonies that have nice food stores between nectar and pollen. Mostly nice drawn frames, a few wonky frames, but because hive 16, swarm number 11, really didn't have the best start with the frames I gave them, I'm thinking about taking hive 2 and 4 and making the best additional deep between the 2, and replacing any crummy frames in 16 to give them 2 deeps with 10. I might run the bottom box as an 8 frame because I'm about to start feeding. So maybe 8 nice frames in the bottom box in addition into whatever they have, and then another deep with 10 nice drawn frames, just to let that queen run wild and really start building up the brood. Because these 2, yeah, unfortunately, they're just they're not really doing anything worthwhile. So it is what it is. I tried a few things, I gave them time, but I think it's maybe just a bad time of year. So okay, back to the beginning with hive, I think 12 in the first position, for a routine inspection. This is awesome. So this box was a newer box I added sometime throughout the season, and if that comes up or not, I mean, they've completely drawn, well, almost completely, but check out the food stores.
And that's not even the best frame. Let's see, maybe the next one? Yeah, check that out. It's nice. And it looks like they're working the back part of the box more. Maybe because the sun hits it. So I'm thinking about, once I get done, just reversing this box. So, oh, that's not good. It's a wax moth. Huh. Just so I can, well, maybe entice the bees to work the front of the box. You don't always see wax moths hanging out in strong colonies, and this one seems to be doing okay. So, okay, let's get into the bottom super, because that one looks pretty nice too. Yeah, check this out. I don't know if it's going to come up. I'll show you here in a second when I start pulling some frames, but there's a lot of capped frames, at least from the first inch or two I can tell. So this might be another box to harvest. This is the inside of the second frame. Let's take a look at the next one together, because it looks just as nice. Yeah, no kidding. And the next one's even nicer. Let's pull that real quick. Holy smokes. I've never had this happen before. I've never pulled honey in May, late May, and had a colony refill a super this well. Let's look at this next one real quick, and that'll be it. But yeah, this looks like a really nice candidate to harvest. I'm just gonna give them the rest of the month to kind of figure their stuff out, and yeah, might have some more honey, which is always a good thing. All right, I just popped the top cover on 24 because I wanted to share this with you. Okay. I was like, oh, not too bad. But yeah, check it out. It's kind of what I was expecting to see, unfortunately, but that is not bad at all. And honestly, I need to do something with them regarding getting just a proper top box on them, which I might use one of the other hives' second medium if they're doing a semi-okay job at drawing it out and using it for some food stores, because this colony does not have a queen excluder, so there's a good chance she can be in the top box. So the inspection starts now. Third frame in the top box here. That's interesting. And this frame has the most open cells, and let's see, hard to tell so far. No eggs just yet. Yeah, it's interesting to find a developed queen cell, but that also helps me shift gears to really make an effort to find the queen if they don't have eggs. I should have just kept the camera rolling. So they have eggs right here. I'm still going to try and find the queen and figure out what's going on. You know, like, why would they want to develop a queen cell in the top box if they are queen right? Ooh, check that out. There's another one. All right, so I definitely want to find the queen now, and it seems like they're a pretty good candidate to potentially make a split with, since they have plans of swarming, or at least trying to swarm in some sense. All right, things are getting interesting with 24 here. I'm pretty confident she's marked as well, so it should make it easy to find her. But sometimes, even when they're marked,
they're not exactly easy to find. Things keep getting more and more interesting. So there's another 2 nicely developed queen cells. Kind of makes you wonder why. And on the flip side, I haven't gone through all the frames yet, but there's a chance they may have already swarmed. All right, let me get my paint marker out and start marking some of these top bars. All right, this is the very next frame, and they have eggs over here, day-old eggs, so she's still in here. Now it's just a matter of finding her on the last 3 frames. It doesn't look like they've ran out of room, which is usually a reason a colony wants to swarm. Seems like they have plenty of room, so kind of just TBD, really. All right, well, sometimes you got to know when to call it. I went through them once. I was going to go through them again. No real need to do that other than just giving them one more look for the queen, but as I was finishing up on the very last frame, they started to get pretty agitated, which is a sign they are queenless. And in fact, I don't think I captured it on the GoPro. I could be wrong. I know I got it on my camera or my phone from earlier this week, but I came out here and there was some somewhat unusual activity going on this part of the yard. And now that I see this many queen cells in this colony, it makes me wonder if that was the tail end of a swarm that I was witnessing. I just didn't know it at the time. So I'm just going to go through the top box again, mark the 1 or 2 frames that had queen cells, and then just leave this one alone until the end of the month. All right, down here at number 1, this might be like number 12 in the first position, just looking at a few of the top portions of the frames here. As you can see, hopefully you can see, it's a lot of nice looking capped frames. Quick look at the middle frame, since that's where the bees tend to work first. Not bad. I mean, it's full. It's a full frame. They just haven't really capped much of it yet. Let's look at the next one semi quickly and then get into the bottom box to actually get the inspection done. This one's a little more capped, but yeah, I'm gonna let them keep doing their thing here for the rest of the month, because there's a real good chance they could produce another super. This might not look like much, but there are a ton of eggs on this side. It's just hard to see with the dark comb. Frames 1 and 2 had a decent amount of capped brood, so there's no doubt they're queen right. I just want to pull one more frame. If I see her, I see her. If I don't, again, there's enough signs that they have a queen. And even with the dark comb, I can see some larvae in development. Let's check this side with the flashlight. Yep, plenty of eggs. So that's all I'm gonna do. You don't have to find the queen every single time. You can save yourself some time, and as soon as you find eggs. But I just wanted to take a look at the next frame, and it looks just as nice as the previous. So between brood, some larvae, eggs, they're doing just fine. All right, down here at 11, they have a deep, a medium, and another deep. Well, this deep above the queen excluder. The only reason I can think I added this was 1, to give them space, and 2, in hopes they would do something with the waxed frames. And
I probably added this too late in the season for them to really use natural resources to draw it out. So for the time being, I'm going to remove it. The time being meaning now until I start feeding, and then I may add boxes like this to the stronger colonies to maybe put them to work to draw out some comb. But for now, this one's gonna come off. Oh my goodness. Number 11. You've been busy. I'm gonna pull a few frames to show you, of course, but just like number 12, I'm gonna let this one ride until about the end of the month. And between two supers, that might be another full bucket of honey. This is wild. I've never experienced a season like this, and it is awesome. This looks like another full medium box to harvest by the end of the month. Down here at 19, and they are doing their thing just like the other ones. So between that frame and the frame next to it, they're probably the two better frames out of this colony. But any colony that is making progress with their supers, I was going to say any colony that has a queen excluder on, but that's like most of them except maybe two. But any colony that's making progress in their supers in the form of, well, now probably just in the stage of curing the nectar they brought in last month, I'm gonna let them go until the end of July, and then just take a look then. And any supers or any frames that are about 80% and able to be harvested, yeah, I'm gonna pull them again. So if you haven't watched the channel throughout the years, this is a first. I've never had such a nice nectar flow or strong colonies to where I can potentially pull 2 spring harvests. Well, a spring harvest, and then this is actually going to be a summer harvest. All right, let's get into them. Quick inspection. I'm just looking for eggs, and then get them put back together and move on to the next one. All right, down here on the 4th frame, and the side of the frame that faces the inside of the hive, plenty of eggs, practically an egg in each cell. So again, that's really all you need to check. You don't have to go through every single frame. And this time of year, with kind of how feisty some of the hives are, and more so the temps, depends how much you like yourself or not, but if you don't need to be out here all day because you're going through every single frame, I would advise you not to. Be quick, be deliberate, and be quick, and be done. Speaking of, that's it for this one. Yeah, they're looking good. Same as a few others. Just gonna leave the queen excluder on, leave the super on, and check on them towards the end of the month. All right, about to get the lid off, maybe, of number 20. And as you can see, shared that with you because that thing was sealed up. And the reason I am showing you the first look on this one particularly is because I am very curious. I've been very curious just to see, hopefully, how much work this colony has done in the top box, the top deep, because for most of the season I did not have a queen excluder on this colony at all, and let the queen run free between the 2 boxes. And the last inspection, again, which was about maybe 3 weeks ago, they had nice food stores in this top box. They had some brood, of course, but I was able to isolate the queen to the bottom box. I added a queen excluder for this very reason. So as you can see, small portion is capped, but the rest of that frame has nectar. This side a little more capped, right? But that's frame number 2. So yeah, what I was saying, I don't think I finished my thought. I've been very curious to see if they are able to produce, not a full is very ambitious, but even half of a deep as a super would be awesome. And it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna give them just like the other colonies. I'm gonna give them to the end of the month. But that's a heavy frame. Let's look at this next one, frame number 4. Not as heavy, but yeah, they're slowly capping it. I mean, that's at least four nice frames. Let's look at this 5th one. They're all almost in the same stage, which I believe this was the brood that hatched out over the last 3 weeks after it got completely developed. That side's not bad. And now it's just a matter of time for them to not bring in nectar, because they already did that, but really at this point to cure it. Okay, not bad. I mean, that's at least half the box, so that could be easily 30 pounds of honey. So between this one and so far 2 other mediums, that is potentially 10 more gallons of honey. But I'll have to remember to keep all this separate. Well, I'm not going to mix it. So when I go to harvest this, it'll be separate, and I'll have to label the 5-gallon buckets as summer honey. I'll just have to remember to do it, because again, this is a first for me. Anyway, let's get into the bottom box, quick inspection, and then move on to the next one. I mean, you really have to appreciate when a colony makes it easy to inspect. This is the inside of frame number 1, and as you can see, developing larvae. But if this colony inspection is going to be that quick, I'm just going to look at the next frame, and if it looks the same, if not a little better, with eggs, there is no reason. Oh yeah, this queen is doing a fantastic job. Let's see. Yep, we got eggs right there at the top. All right. Well, number 20, I appreciate it. I appreciate all the work you're putting into the top box to provide me with some more honey, and I appreciate a very quick inspection. There we go. It can be that easy, folks. All right, down here at 14, they have 2 mediums. I just wanted to show you this real quick. I didn't show you opening the hive, obviously, but they had a ton of bees in the top box, which is a good sign, because that means they're working the top box. Let's just take a look at some of the frames that look semi-good from the top. This one, this box might not really turn into any sort of harvest. However, the silver lining is, since they have this much food packed away, I won't necessarily have to feed them. Damn. I won't have to feed them right away, which is a good thing, because sugar is expensive. But just like one of the other colonies, if they're making nice progress in the top medium, let's take a look at the bottom medium. And in theory, it should be a little better, but judging by the top looking down, I don't think that's the case with this one. Nah, I mean, they have food, which is a good thing. All right, I'm just gonna let the top 2 boxes go for the rest of the month, and then when I get back into the colonies closer to August, I may consolidate these 2 boxes into one, so they have one. Man. So they have one nice medium box full of food versus food scattered throughout 2. This is the outside portion of frame number 2, and they have eggs right there, so that's all I'm gonna do. There's no need to look any further and disturb them. So that's good. At least they're queen right. I'm not too concerned about the top 2 boxes, especially since I pulled my main honey harvest at the end of May. Anything extra that you've seen is just that, is extra, because I've never really had an opportunity to pull more than one harvest between spring honey and
and summer honey, but some's better than none. And then the food stores that number 19 has scattered throughout the 2 medium boxes. Like I said, towards the end of the month, I'll consolidate those frames into 1 medium box that has the best food stores possible, and then whatever's left over, if anything's left over, I'll add that to another colony that needs some food. All right, down here at number 6, and I find this interesting enough to share. So the queen excluder is above the 2nd deep, which is, this is one of very few hives I have configured as a double deep. So 2 deeps, queen excluder, top box, the medium, really not doing much with it. But the top medium, they are treating this like a super, meaning nothing but very nice food stores, capped honey, nectar they just haven't cured yet. No sign of eggs, which is why I say that even on this side. And I'm just double checking, there's not another queen excluder. So I'm making a point to look for the queen in the top box here, or I'm sorry, the top deep. If I find her, great, but my plan is to cage her and isolate her to the bottom deep. Well, as I say all that, check this out. Kind of got ahead of myself. Nice brood frame. A lot of small larvae around the top, which is on the bottom of the screen, and the next frame is absolutely beautiful. So it looks like they're just using the first few frames as food stores, which I'll tell you this much, they might get harvested depending on how other things are looking here in about 2 weeks. But yeah, no doubt they have a nice laying queen. I'm just looking for eggs. So okay, I got ahead of myself a little bit, got a little excited after seeing the first few frames of the top box here. Let's take a look at this one as they are getting a little more excited. And yeah, no doubt they have a queen. There's eggs scattered throughout the cells. No sign of her, but she's in here and she's laying, so that's all good. As I wrap things up, this is frame number 9. Check that out. That's a nice looking frame. Okay. No real need to get into the bottom box. There's enough signs that they have a queen, nice pattern, ton of brood about to hatch in the next few weeks. But the first, I don't know, first 2 or 3 frames, small area of capped honey, but the rest wide open. I'll keep an eye on them for the next time I get into the hives towards the end of the month, and I might pull 1 or 2, just depending if they're more capped than they currently are. But yeah, number 6 looking pretty good. Moving along down here at 17, pulled frame number 6 in the medium. Nice food frame, a lot of nectar. Let's do a quick shake test. Unlike a few weeks ago, shook a frame and the nectar just poured out of it, which means it's very, very wet. This didn't, so they're definitely curing it. This frame looks a little nicer than the previous. This box, just like another one, might just be left for the bees. I highly doubt they're gonna make the progress that I need them to make in the next 2 weeks to harvest this box, which is not a big deal. It's just potentially less colonies that I may have to feed here in the near future. But I'm gonna get into the bottom box, take a closer look. Hopefully they have signs they're queen right, and I can move on to the next one. This is the inside of frame number 3, which makes this the outside. As you can see, some nice cap brood over to the left, whether that's coming up or not. There's some larvae, and then right over here by my thumb, there's some eggs. So the hive inspections are becoming a little shorter as I go, which is a good thing, because that means I won't be out here all day. And that's how it should be, right? So hive number 17, queen rate. Not the best stores for harvest purposes, which means I'll just leave them for the bees. And that's it for this one. Probably less than 5 minutes, easily. All right, frame number 4 in hive 13. So quite a few years ago, I'd pull a frame like this and instantly dismiss it, meaning I would think it has nothing going on because you can't really see anything with how dark the comb is. But no kidding, I know this won't come up, so I'm not even going to bother to try, but no kidding, every cell on both sides has an egg in it, which is absolutely fantastic. Because if I didn't start using a flashlight to be able to see into the dark comb like that, like I was saying, I would think this hive is on the decline. But yeah, they're actually doing pretty darn well. So that's it for this one. All right, down here at number 5, and this hive has a deep and a medium above the queen excluder. Whether you can see that or not, it's a pretty wet frame, and in fact that is probably the best looking frame since I pulled that in the, or from the number 6 position. Wet frame, not capped, and that looks to be the same throughout the rest of the top box, which is a medium. However, let's see how this deep's looking. I'll show you in a second once I get the completely propolised small hive beetle trap out of the way. In fact, I'm just gonna remove it and clean it up later. But yeah, let's see how this one's looking once I make myself some space to work, which usually means removing the very outside frame. So again, this deep is above the queen excluder. And that's a pretty wet frame. This frame has some weight to it. Some capped honey and some wet cells with some nectar. And it looks like it gets a little better as we keep going. So just like a few other colonies so far, I'm just gonna leave this alone for the rest of the month and then make a decision come around late July or early August whether or not any of these frames are ready to be harvested. All right, let's get into the bottom box, see how that's looking. And hopefully I find eggs in the first frame or two. So this can be another rather short inspection. That box has some weight to it. All right, the inside of frame number 2 right here, we got eggs. And just because I can see ahead, I can see a little more than the camera. Yeah, she's doing a pretty nice job. And if my memory serves me right, this is a newer queen. This colony had like 20 queen cells about a month ago. And sure enough, it was one of the 3 that were queenless for a good while, developed 20 queen cells, and one of them took. That's a terrible ratio. 20 queens to make 1, but that was the choice I made for this one because I was having a hard time getting a few colonies queen right. By introducing queens, they just weren't taking them, or I'm not really too sure what happened, but I'd inspect them a week or 2 later and the queens that I knew I introduced were long gone. But yeah, number five's looking pretty good. All right, down here at 15, pulled the top box, which is a medium. Doesn't look like they have anything going on. It has nice drawn frames. They're just not doing anything with it, which that's not a total loss, because I have colonies that can use a top box with drawn comb to work it as, here soon enough, an extension of the brood chamber, or to store honey, to store food stores as soon as I start feeding them. All right. They are storing some food in this top box. It's just not really enough to even bother for harvesting, so I'll just leave it alone once I start feeding them, and they can mix in the sugar water with their natural food stores they packed away. Let's get into the bottom box for a quick inspection. All right, over here on frame number 4, as you can see, pretty well developed queen cell. I haven't found any eggs yet. However, I've been looking pretty quickly, so I am actually going to have to go through the rest of this box, which is only 4 more frames, to find the queen if I see eggs. If I don't find any eggs, and they have they have 2 developed queen cells, there is a very good chance she may have already moved on. So stand by, and I'll share my findings here in a little bit. All right, I'm finishing up. Yeah, it looks like they became queenless sometime in the last month or so. 2 pretty well developed queen cells, so that's just something to keep an eye on. And that's it for this one. So I'm just going to get them put back together. Both mediums are pretty light, which isn't a big deal. Any sort of second crop is really just a bonus this time of year. Definitely nothing to expect, but if I can pull a little more honey off each hive and keep them healthy, why not? All right, down here at number 3, kind of similar to a few colonies. The top box, they've stored some nectar. It doesn't look like it's gonna be capped and ready to be harvested by the end of the month, so I'm just gonna let them keep that in addition to whatever food I give them here in the very near future. But just gonna get into the bottom box for what I'm hoping is a quick inspection, and then move on to the remaining 6 or 7 colonies. This is like a all-day event when you try to do all the hives in one day, which I do not recommend. All right, we got some storm clouds moving in, which is probably affecting the bees' temperament, but there's eggs on number 4, frame number 4, and it looks like that's all I'm going to be able to do. Well, that's all I'm going to do with this one, and I'm going to have to wrap it up. I don't know if you can hear that over the bees, but there's some pretty decent thunder. So, which one is this? Number 3. 3 is queen right. Eggs on frame number 4. All right, stay tuned to figure out what the rest of the day, or maybe even tomorrow, looks like. All right, welcome back, everybody. So here it is the next day. It's Monday, July 14th, right at 7 p.m. Temperature is 87 degrees, the humidity is 66%, and the heat index is 97 degrees. It's warm, but it's not as warm or hot as it has been. All right, so as y'all saw, I got rained out the other day, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get through all the colonies for a routine inspection. So I am going to postpone that for throughout the week, if not the weekend. So that will most likely be the beginning of the second half of July's video, which should be titled Late July. So today I'm about to head out to the hives to treat them for the 4th and maybe the final time. I'm kicking around the idea of treating them a 5th round, which will be on Friday. So again, stay tuned for the second half of July's video, and that might be part of that as well. But yeah, last time I treated them was about 4 to 5 days ago. So they are due for a treatment. Y'all seen this before, nothing new. I'll show you a few clips maybe, but yeah, let's get to it. Let's get them treated, zap all the mites down to hopefully next to nothing. And then from here on out, I might just treat them every 2 weeks, once every 2 weeks, at least once a month, and then one more heavy dose, probably in September, right before we usually get our first frost, which is sometime in October. Because once it gets cold enough, you don't want to do too many things to disturb the bees or disrupt the cluster. That's why I'm saying maybe September, but that's a few months from now. Let's focus on the present. Let's get out to the yard, treat the hives, and that'll be it for the early July video.
All right, you've seen it once, you've seen it twice, folks. Not much of a real update or anything new, but just finishing up. Once I'm done with this one, we got 4 to go. I don't know if I shared this before, so I'll share it now or maybe share it again, but the Rigid Max, whatever it's called, batteries, very impressed. There is a noticeable difference with their Max line of batteries and how quickly the InstaVap heats up, which essentially results in less time treating per hive. So I'll give you a close-up of the battery that I'm talking about, since I'm probably butchering the name. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. Max output. Pretty impressive.
Ooh. There you have it, folks. So it's about 750. That took a little longer than usual for whatever reason. Truly doesn't matter. What's more important is the hives are treated. So like I was saying earlier, that is the 4th treatment. I might treat them one more time, kind of up in the air, but that'll be captured in the first portion of the late July video. So that does it for me. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is going to be the end of the early July video. Appreciate it, everybody watching. If you like the video, of course, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Every little bit helps. I've seen other folks talk about the statistics that's available for creators via the YouTube analytics, and just like most people, north of 80, maybe even 85% of my views come from folks that have not subscribed. So I can only imagine what that would look like if everybody that watched the channel took a few seconds just to hit the subscribe button, and I promise I will not spam you. So if you haven't noticed, this time of year I am producing 2 videos a month, maybe 3. It is extremely unlikely I will produce more than 3 videos, but never say never. And like I promised earlier in the introduction, let me show you the experiment that I am up to inside the honey house, aka the shed, aka the sweat lodge. So I got this idea that, is it possible to use a water jacketed heated honey bottling tank to possibly reduce the moisture level of your harvested honey? From the research that I was able to do, you want a very hot, warm environment and a very dry environment. So, thanks to running 2 dehumidifiers on the continuous mode for the last 24 hours, I'm able to reach 110 degrees in here, so an average of 21% humidity. All right, so I got the environment thing going. Let's swing on over to the tank. So from my research, and this has actually gone up a little bit, so I had the tank set to 100, and this afternoon it was at 102, and even after dialing it down, it's spiked a little bit to 103. So the research I conducted basically said set your tank between 100 and 105, crack the lid, and again, because the environment in here is pretty dry, right? Crack the lid so any kind of moisture has somewhere to go, and then just run a fan over wherever the cracked portion is. So as of Saturday, and in fact a week ago, it's been measuring right at 17.5% with the refractometer. So I'm gonna do this for a few days. Today's Monday. I'm gonna do this all week, actually, all the way through Friday, and then maybe even Saturday, just so it's like a full week between the measurements. So I'm gonna do this for quite a few days throughout the week, take another sample later this week, maybe this weekend, and we'll see. If it's closer to 17, I would say this works. The ideal goal for me is between about 15.5 to 17. So since mine is measuring 17, more realistically, I'm aiming, or I'm sorry, 17.5, I'm aiming more towards just getting it down to 17 or slightly below. 16.5 would be cool. And I'm stepping outside because, as you saw, it is hot in there. So I'm just gonna have to keep a close eye on the bottling tank temperature. I am surprised to see that because at least an hour ago, maybe 2 hours ago, I reduced the temperature from 100 to 98. And even when it was hotter than it is right now outside, the bottling tank temp was like 101, maybe 102. So I'm surprised that it's gone up another degree even after the outside temperature is a lot cooler. And as you can see, the building's not insulated. So I shot a infrared thermometer on the inside of the roof the other day during the midday, and it read 124 degrees. And then the walls read about 100, 110 actually, and the floor is about 100. So that is in the works to insulate the building in an effort to control the environment a little more, but the dueling dehumidifiers definitely serve as a heat source and obviously a dehumidifying function. So average of 21 degrees, or I'm sorry, 21% in there with those temps. Yeah, we'll see by Friday. We'll see by Friday if it's helped reduce the moisture just a little bit. All right, hey, that's it for me, Cole's Farm here in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Again, thank you everybody for watching. If you could take the time to hit the subscribe button, that would be super cool. Currently, I'm at like 2,888, I think, as of this evening when I looked. Before the fall, and this isn't a huge goal, but before the fall, I think it would be pretty cool to reach 3,000. So if you're watching this video, especially at this point, because it's probably pretty lengthy, if you could help us reach 3,000, I would appreciate it. And one more shout out for our honey. So if you're looking for some absolutely delicious and very nutritious local and raw honey, I have plenty available. Go on the banner on YouTube. I've said this before. Our link tree is right there. The second or third item on our link tree is our online store, which is the Square site, how we sell our honey. Or if you're around Jacksonville, North Carolina, come out to the farmers market. I've decided the first and third Saturday, I'm going to make it a point to have a booth set up to sell some honey. But before coming out there and wasting your time, just in the event that I'm not there, just shoot me a message, DM, Messenger, leave a comment in a video and ask if I'm going to be out there that weekend. And if I'm not, I'll try to make some arrangements to get some honey into your hands. Supplies are limited, and once it sells out, it's gone until the following late May or June. And typically we sell out by about Thanksgiving. So here it is, mid-July. Thanksgiving is just a matter of 5.5 months away. So don't wait too long to get a hold of us to pick up a jar or two, or a bottle or two, because like I said, once it's gone, and we don't really harvest our honey until about late May each year. Have it bottled sometime in June and then available for sale in July. All right, very long wrap up, very long summary. But again, thanks for watching everybody. Cole's Farm here in Jacksonville, North Carolina.